Gaza, a name synonymous with suffering, a place where the echoes of despair are a daily reality, a place where hope struggles to survive amidst the ruins and the rubble. For decades, the Palestinian people of Gaza have endured unimaginable hardship, facing a relentless blockade and scarcity of basic necessities. They have been subjected to a relentless cycle of violence and oppression with no end in sight. Today, that suffering has reached a fever pitch as the situation becomes increasingly dire. The world watches in horror as Gaza is pushed to the brink of collapse, teetering on the edge of a humanitarian abyss. After the Hamas attacks on Israel in October of 2023, a brutal Israeli offensive began, escalating the conflict to unprecedented levels. This offensive has had devastating consequences for the civilian population, leaving countless lives shattered. Thousands of innocent men, women, and children have been killed, their lives cut short by the violence. Homes have been reduced to rubble, entire neighborhoods obliterated. Hospitals and schools have been bombed, depriving the community of essential services. Gaza is bleeding, and the world is failing to stop the hemorrhaging as the cries for help grow louder. This is not just a conflict, it is a humanitarian catastrophe of epic proportions. The situation in Gaza demands our attention, it demands our outrage and our empathy. The cries of the people of Gaza cannot be ignored. The situation demands our immediate action. And most importantly, it demands action from the global community to bring about lasting peace and justice. The current crisis in Gaza began on October 7, 2023, when Hamas launched a surprise attack on Israel, catching the nation off guard and igniting a new wave of violence. The attacks, which resulted in the deaths of over 1,000 Israelis, were met with swift and brutal retaliation from the Israeli military, escalating the conflict to unprecedented levels. Israel launched a full-scale offensive on Gaza, unleashing its military might on the densely populated strip of land, causing widespread devastation. The Israeli Defense Forces claimed that their objective was to target Hamas infrastructure and personnel, aiming to dismantle the group's capabilities. However, the reality on the ground tells a different story, with countless civilian casualties and widespread destruction. The offensive has been characterized by indiscriminate bombing and shelling, leaving no area untouched. Civilian areas have been hit with impunity, causing immense suffering and loss. The death toll continues to climb with each passing day as the humanitarian crisis deepens. The IDF's tactics have been widely condemned as disproportionate and indiscriminate, sparking global outrage. Human rights organizations have accused Israel of war crimes, calling for accountability and justice. The international community has called for an immediate ceasefire, urging both sides to halt the violence, but the bombs keep falling, and the people of Gaza continue to pay the price, trapped in a cycle of violence and despair. It is impossible to overstate the suffering of civilians in Gaza. They are trapped in a living nightmare. Imagine living under a constant barrage of bombs and missiles. Imagine having no safe place to go. Imagine fearing for your life and the lives of your loved ones every single second of every single day. Hospitals, already overwhelmed and under-resourced, are struggling to cope with the influx of casualties. Medical supplies are running dangerously low. The injured and the sick are being denied access to life-saving care. The situation is dire, and it is only getting worse. The forced evacuations of entire neighborhoods have exacerbated the humanitarian crisis. Tens of thousands of Palestinians have been displaced from their homes, with many seeking refuge in overcrowded and unsanitary shelters. The psychological toll of the conflict, particularly on children, is immeasurable. To understand the current crisis in Gaza, one must understand the historical context. The conflict between Israel and Palestine is not a recent phenomenon. It is rooted in decades of dispossession, displacement, and discrimination. Since the creation of the State of Israel in 1948, Palestinians have been systematically denied their fundamental rights. They have been subjected to land confiscation, home demolitions, and restrictions on movement. The Israeli occupation of the West Bank and Gaza Strip, which began in 1967, has only entrenched this system of oppression. The international community has long recognized that Israel's policies towards the Palestinians amount to apartheid. Apartheid is a crime against humanity. It is a system of racial segregation and discrimination designed to maintain the dominance of one group over another. Section 5. The blockade, a weapon of war. The Gaza Strip has been under a crippling blockade by Israel and Egypt since 2007. This blockade has severely impacted every aspect of life in Gaza, from the economy to healthcare. This blockade has turned Gaza into an open-air prison, where 2 million people are trapped in abject poverty and despair. The daily lives of Gazans are marked by shortages and restrictions. The blockade restricts the flow of essential goods and services into Gaza, including food, fuel, medicine, and building materials. These restrictions have led to a humanitarian crisis of unprecedented scale. The blockade is not about security, as Israel claims. It is a form of collective punishment. It is a deliberate act of collective punishment designed to crush the Palestinian spirit and bring Gaza to its knees. The psychological toll on the people is immense. The United Nations has repeatedly called for an end to the blockade, warning that it is a major driver of the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Despite these calls, the blockade remains firmly in place. The blockade is a moral stain on the conscience of the world. It is a glaring example of injustice. It is a violation of international law and a testament to the failure of the international community to hold Israel accountable for its actions. The world must act to end this suffering. Section 6. International law, broken promises, and double standards. Israel's actions in Gaza are not only morally reprehensible, but also illegal under international law. The indiscriminate bombing of civilian areas, the targeting of hospitals and schools, and the collective punishment of the entire population are all war crimes. The Fourth Geneva Convention, to which Israel is a signatory, explicitly prohibits the transfer of an occupying power's civilian population into occupied territory. Yet, Israel continues to build and expand illegal settlements in the West Bank, displacing Palestinians and confiscating their land. The international community has a responsibility to uphold international law and hold perpetrators of war crimes accountable. However, when it comes to Israel, there is a glaring double standard. Israel has enjoyed impunity for its actions for far too long. Section 7. The world responds: outrage and inaction. The international community has expressed outrage over the situation in Gaza. Governments have issued condemnations. Human rights organizations have released scathing reports. Protests have erupted in cities around the world. Yet, despite the widespread condemnation, concrete action has been lacking. The United Nations Security Council, paralyzed by the veto power of the United States, has failed to take meaningful steps to stop the violence or hold Israel accountable. The United States, Israel's closest ally, has consistently shielded Israel from international pressure. The Biden administration's tepid response to the current crisis is a case in point. The international community's failure to act emboldens Israel and perpetuates the cycle of violence. Section 8. The far-right agenda, a dangerous trajectory. The current crisis in Gaza must also be understood in the context of the rise of the Israeli far right. The Israeli government, led by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, is the most right-wing government in Israel's history. This government is openly hostile to the Palestinian people and their aspirations for freedom and self-determination. They view the Palestinian presence in the West Bank and Gaza Strip as an existential threat. Their ultimate goal is to annex all of the occupied territories and create a greater Israel. The far-right's agenda is dangerous and deeply concerning. Their policies of expansion, annexation, and ethnic cleansing are pushing the region towards a one-state reality where Palestinians will be permanently relegated to second-class status. Section 9, a call for justice, a plea for peace. The situation in Gaza is a stain on our collective conscience. We cannot stand idly by as innocent people are being slaughtered. We cannot remain silent in the face of such injustice. We must demand an immediate ceasefire and an end to the blockade of Gaza. We must hold Israel accountable for its violations of international law. We must work towards a just and lasting peace that guarantees the rights of both Palestinians and Israelis. The Palestinian people deserve to live in freedom and dignity. They deserve a future filled with hope, not hate. Let us not fail them. Let us raise our voices and demand justice for Palestine.